calculating the slope between 2 points. So if we're given information about 2 points on a line and we want to know the slope, and we have no visual way of seeing it, so maybe we don't have a graph to count the rise over run, there is a way to calculate the slope between 2 points. The formula we're going to use is m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Most places you would see this and need this. This formula is given to you, so it is there. It's really not that hard of a formula to remember in itself. Excuse me. So y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. If we follow this formula, we will be able to calculate the slope between 2 points. Again, this is very useful whenever a visual approach is not available. If I did have a graph, I could sit there and count the rise over run if I so desired. So let's get to it. The name of the game with these problems is really staying organized and patient in putting things together. The most common mistakes is people just trying to rush and just slap things together and hope for the best. So staying organized. This is the first point listed. This is the second point listed. So what I'm going to do is I know the 5 is an x, the 7 is a y. But since this is the first point of my 2 points, I'm going to call this x1, y1. So x1 is 5, y1 is 7. This is my second point, -3, 4, the second of the 2 points listed. I know that -3 is the x, so I'm going to call that x2. And the 4 is the y value, so I'm going to call that y2. So x1, y1, x2, y2 is all the pieces there. From here, it's just a very careful game of plugging the pieces in and then calculating your answer and reducing if need be. So away we go. So I know m equals, I'm going to start my fraction. The first thing I need is y2. So if I look at what I've labeled, I said y2 is 4. The next thing I need, according to my formula, is a subtraction sign. So there's my subtraction, followed by a y1, which I labeled y1 as 7. Go to the bottom now. I have x2 minus x1. Check out my points. x2 is -3. Need a subtraction next, so there's my subtraction, and then I need x1, which I labeled as 5. So I got a 4, 7, -3, -5. So then from here, we're just doing the math. So if you need to use a calculator, do it. If you need a calculator, do it. So we got 4 minus 7, which is -3. 4 minus 7 is -3. On the bottom, I got a -3 minus 5. A -3 minus 5, which is -8. Okay? If fractions are not your strong suit, we do need to make sure these are reduced and as cleaned up as possible. So maybe you look at -3 over -8 and you're like, I'm not really sure if that's reduced. Let the calculator handle the work for you. So you probably let the calculator handle it here, and I could back up if you're like, whoa, how to get that? This is a -3 subtract 5. Signs in the middle are subtraction. These would be negative signs if they were there, so that's how I got that -8. So what's important is trying to reduce our fractions. So -3 divided by -8. And the best way to try and reduce fractions if you have a graphing calculator is hit that math button, and we're going to hit enter twice. And what this is going to do is it's going to take our most recent answer and represent it as a reduced fraction. And it tells us, hey, -3 over -8, that's just the same thing as +3 over 8. It doesn't reduce at all, but it is worth checking. It's worth checking. So our slope in this problem is just 3 over 8. That's it. Let's move on to our next one. Another example. Plug into that formula, do what you need to do. So very carefully, m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. That is our formula for the slope. Let's label our points. This is the first point listed. This is the second point listed. First point, second point. So we have x1, y1. Other point, x2, y2. Then it's a careful game of plugging in the correct pieces in the correct places. So let's start it out. y2 we said was 3, so there is my 3. Next I need a subtraction, long subtraction there. Then I need y1. y1 is negative 9, so negative 9. Where people get caught up is they're like, oh, I already have a negative. No, 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 no. The subtraction comes from the formula. This negative was with the 9. To the bottom, x2 minus x1. x2 is 3. Subtraction. x1 is negative 3. So we got a subtraction and a negative 3. Subtraction and a negative 3. Be very, very careful how you plug this in a calculator. Make sure you know what you are doing. So you would have 3 subtract negative 9. 3 subtract negative 9, which is going to leave you with a 12. And then on the bottom, we got a 3 subtract negative 3. There is a difference on these signs. See how the subtractions are long? The negatives are short. So negatives go with numbers. Subtraction is our operation. 6. So I got 12 over 6. Some of us might be able to know how to reduce that and divide that. Some of us may not. If you need to use that calculator, use it. 12 divided by 6 is my fraction, which it does clean itself up to 2. It cleans itself up to 2. So my slope on this problem is just 2. So this was calculating the slope between 2 points. Again, as long as you label points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and you follow your formula, it's one of the easier problems you can do. Just take your time, put in the work to label it, and you'll be just fine.